There's a kind of confidence that fills a room before the person even speaks. You feel it. The certainty, the unwavering presence, the way they move through space as if they own it. And yet something feels wrong. Not dangerous, exactly. Not obviously harmful. Just off. Like you're in the presence of someone who seems so sure of themselves that there's no room left for you to be sure of yourself. If confidence is supposed to make people feel safe, why does this kind make you feel small? If certainty is supposed to inspire trust, why does this kind make you doubt your own reality? What if what we call confidence is sometimes just fear in a very convincing disguise? Imagine a dinner table, 10 people, conversation flowing, and then someone speaks, not louder than everyone else, but with a quality that makes all other voices recede. They tell a story about themselves, about something they accomplished, about how they were right when everyone else was wrong. And as they speak, you notice something. The story doesn't invite questions. It doesn't leave space for doubt. It arrives complete, polished, unassailable. Someone else tries to add to the conversation, to share a similar experience. But before they finish their first sentence, the confident person redirects. Not aggressively, just effortlessly. The conversation bends back to them like gravity. And you sit there watching, noticing how the room has reorganized itself around this person's certainty. How everyone else has become an audience. How your own thoughts feel less important now, less true. And later when you're alone, you can't quite explain why you feel diminished. Why an evening that should have been connection felt more like witnessing a performance. But if you'd seen them alone, just for a moment, you would have seen something else. A brief crack in the armor. A flash of doubt so quick it was almost invisible. And then the certainty returning, like a reflex, like survival. Real confidence is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to prove it exists. It can sit in a room with uncertainty and not feel threatened. It can be wrong and not feel destroyed. It can listen to criticism without interpreting it as attack. Because real confidence comes from a secure foundation, from knowing somewhere deep inside that your worth is not conditional, that you can be imperfect and still be valued, that you can be uncertain and still be safe. But toxic confidence? That's something else entirely. It begins, like most things, in childhood. Not always in obvious trauma, sometimes in subtler lessons. A parent who couldn't tolerate being questioned, a household where emotions were weakness, a family system where love was earned through achievement, through perfection, through never needing anything. The child learns vulnerability is dangerous. Doubt is shameful. Uncertainty invites harm. And so they build something, not consciously, but instinctively, a kind of armor, a persona of absolute certainty. By the time they're grown, they've forgotten they're wearing it. They believe the mask is their face. They believe the certainty is real. But underneath is terror. The terror of being seen as they actually are. Uncertain, flawed, vulnerable, human. And this terror is so deep, so unbearable, that their entire psychological system is designed to prevent them from ever feeling it. So they become experts at control, not just of situations, of perception, of narrative, of reality itself. They speak with unwavering certainty because uncertainty feels like death. They refuse to admit mistakes because being wrong feels like erasure. They dominate conversations because silence might reveal the void. And when challenged, when someone questions them, disagrees with them, sees through them, the response is immediate, defensive, disproportionate. Because to them, it's not just a disagreement, it's an existential threat. This is why arguments with toxic people feel so strange. Why simple conversations escalate into battles. Why you can present facts, evidence, your own lived experience, and they'll dismiss it all with frightening ease. Because for you, the conversation is about truth, about understanding, about connection. But for them, it's about survival. Their entire sense of self is built on never being wrong, on never appearing weak, on maintaining the fortress at all costs. And if the fortress falls, they believe they'll fall with it. This is why toxic confidence requires constant validation, why they need to be the smartest person in the room, why they collect achievements, accolades, proof of their superiority. Not because they're secure, but because they're trying to convince themselves, trying to build evidence against the voice inside that whispers, "You're not enough. You're going to be exposed. Everyone will see what you really are." Real confidence doesn't need external validation. It exists independently of what others think. But toxic confidence is entirely dependent on it. It's a performance that requires an audience, an act that can never rest. And this is exhausting. Not only for those around them, though it is, but for the person themselves, living in constant hypervigilance, always scanning for threats to their narrative, always defending, always managing, always performing. They can never relax, because relaxing means the mask might slip. And if the mask slips, someone might see the frightened child they've spent their entire life hiding. But it's not just personal history. The world we live in rewards this kind of confidence, celebrates it, mistakes it for leadership. We live in a culture that values certainty over wisdom, loudness over truth, performance over presence. The person who speaks with conviction gets the platform, even if they're wrong. The person who never doubts themselves gets promoted, even if they should. The person who projects strength gets followed, even if that strength is hollow. Social media has made this worse, because online, you can curate everything. You can present only the moments of certainty, only the victories, only the version of yourself that never struggles, never questions, never fails. And the algorithm rewards this. It amplifies confidence. It punishes vulnerability. It teaches people that to be seen, to be valued, to matter, you must appear unshakable. So we're creating generations of people who believe that confidence means never admitting uncertainty, that strength means never showing softness, that leadership means never asking for help. In boardrooms, toxic confidence gets mistaken for competence. In relationships, it gets mistaken for security. In politics, it gets mistaken for vision. Because we've forgotten what real confidence looks like. We've forgotten that true leaders admit when they don't know, that secure people can change their minds, that strength includes the ability to be gentle, Instead, we've built a world that rewards the mask, that gives power to people who speak loudest, longest, with the most unwavering conviction, even when that conviction is covering a void. And the cruelest part is that the people performing this confidence are trapped in it. Because once you've built your entire identity around never being wrong, once you've spent years cultivating an image of unshakable certainty, you can't stop. To show doubt now would unravel everything. To admit vulnerability would invalidate the entire performance. To say, "I don't know," would shatter the persona you've spent your life constructing. So the performance continues.
Gets more rigid, more desperate, more isolated. Because you can't have genuine intimacy with a mask. You can't have real friendship with a persona. You can't be truly known if you're always performing. So we end up with a world full of people who seem confident but feel empty, who appear strong but are terrified, who project certainty but are drowning in doubt. And the tragedy is that the very thing they're trying to avoid by performing is the very thing the performance guarantees. They're trying to prevent rejection, but their inability to be real ensures eventual abandonment. They're trying to protect themselves from being seen as weak, but their rigidity makes genuine connection impossible. They're trying to earn love through perfection, but perfection is impossible to love because it's impossible to reach. Here is what we've learned to mistake for strength. The person who never backs down. The person who never admits fault. The person who always has an answer. The person who seems immune to doubt. We think they must be so confident, they must be so sure of themselves, they must have something we don't. But the truth is often the opposite. The louder someone's certainty, the more fragile they often are. The more dominant their presence, the more desperate their need for control. The more perfect their facade, the more terrified they are of being seen. Because toxic confidence is not strength. It's a fortress built around fear. It's what happens when a child learns that vulnerability is dangerous. When someone decides that the only way to survive is to never, ever let anyone see them tremble. And the cost of this fortress is connection, intimacy, the ability to be truly known. Because you cannot be close to someone who won't let down their guard. You cannot love someone who won't show you their uncertainty. You cannot trust someone who can never admit they were wrong. So they live in exile, surrounded by admirers who don't know them, surrounded by proof of their competence but not their humanity, surrounded by the illusion of strength and the reality of profound isolation. This is the paradox at the center of toxic confidence. It survives not because it is strong, but because the person wearing it believes the alternative would destroy them. They believe that without the mask, they are nothing. They believe that without the certainty, they would disappear. They believe that if they showed their fear, everyone would leave. And so they hold on to the performance, to the armor, to the toxic confidence that keeps them safe and keeps them alone. If you've been in the presence of this kind of confidence, if you felt yourself shrink around someone who seemed so sure, this is what you were sensing. Not strength, but fear dressed as strength. Not certainty, but terror wearing certainty's clothes. And understanding this doesn't require you to save them. doesn't require you to stay. Doesn't mean you owe them your patience while they perform. What it does is free you. Because once you see the mask for what it is, you stop being intimidated by it. You stop doubting yourself because they seem so sure. You stop shrinking to make room for someone who's already taking up all the space. Real confidence whispers. It doesn't need to shout. It can sit with uncertainty. It can be wrong and not be destroyed. And when you know this, when you've learned to recognize the difference, you stop confusing loudness with truth, performance with presence, certainty with wisdom. What looks like strength is often fear in a different costume. And seeing this clearly doesn't fix them, but it frees you.